Greetings, Outlander. I am Livia Talvani, and I wish to conquer death. Do you ever find yourself studying something? A person, perhaps? And wondering, why? Is it all for nothing? The Underking, also known as Zuranarctus, or even Aran the Fox, if that lich Manimarco is to be believed, is one of these mysteries. One that had a hand in shaping some of the most monumental chapters of Tamriel's history, and yet, if you were to ask any person, each would give you a different answer.
He's just a lich, innit? Oh, Zuranarctus, finest battle mage the Empire ever saw. Magnus's chosen. Who?
Ah, none other than Ismir Wolfheart, of course.
Heretical conspiracy aside, whoever it was, the Underking was a person or being that was able to entirely evade death itself. Though whether he intended this is arguable. So, what sort of person came across such power? Zuranarctus first came to prominence as a strategist and tactician under General Talos during the conquest of Kulakan at the close of the Second Era. But upon Kulakan's suspiciously convenient death, it was Zuranarctus to proclaim his general, Emperor Tiber Septim. Zurin was with him as the first Imperial battle mage, and one of his best diplomats of his time, even helping broker an armistice with the weakening tribunal. This allowed them to be conquered with compromise. It was a pretty good deal. For example, they got to carry on worshipping the living gods and preserve their sacred right of slavery. However, the Dunmer were a little more clever than that. Handing over the Numidium was all good and well, but it didn't even work. It needed the heart of Lorkhan, which at the time was safely tucked away behind a terrible ash storm filled with flesh-eating beasts and monsters. Imperials, however, are, as always, crafty. Arctus put his heart and his life force into an enormous gem known as the Mantella, which brought the false brass god to life. He gifted it to Tiber, the totem of Tiber Septim, which is an incredibly suggestive name given that it allowed people of royal lineage to control the Numidium. So, what was Arctus rewarded with for selflessly gifting his essence to the Emperor to unify all of Tamriel? Well, heartbreak, of course. A betrayal of the highest order. Tiber Septim used the Numidium to complete his conquest, and afterwards crushed all the neutral royal families of Tamriel, replacing them with imperial loyalists. Zurin was furious at the blatant misuse of this weapon of mass destruction that had never been misused before. He went to reclaim his life force from the Mantella, but the attempt destroyed the Numidium and Zuranarctus both. His heart was blown into the Aetherius beyond the stars. The attempt was an abject failure. Though, with half of his life spirit still empowering the Mantella, Zurin's soul refused to leave his dying body. He fell into a slumber in a subterranean vault, waiting to reclaim his soul. The man, always known as a planner and a strategist, had made a blunder. Forever to be known as the Underking, multiple people would attempt to reclaim the Numidium and the Mantella, but were always stopped by the undead menace. A menace which would also have an extensive spy network, with strange minions sent forth to search for his heart. Finally, during the warp in the west, which is a whole other thing, we'll talk about that maybe later, an agent of the Blades would eventually reunite Arctus, the Underking, with his heart, allowing him to die forever. There is one book, known as the Arcturian Heresy, attributed to an unknown source, but well known amongst master scholars, like myself. It says that Zuranarctus was framed, made out to be an assassin by Tiber Septim, and used to get the Mantella from the Underking, whom was Instead, Ysmir Wolfhearth, an old Nord ruler, made undead by an ancient curse, one whom helped Talos in the past, helped build the Empire in secret. Does it have any credibility? Was Zurin Arctus a scapegoat for an ambitious warlord, building his domain across Tamriel? Probably not. Now, for one who is looking to extend their life, what can be learned here? Well, firstly, you can't be selfless. Secondly, build a legacy that stands up to hearsay. The fact that Zurin Arctus did so much, and yet his actions are still debated to this day, shows that he was actually quite weak as a person, in my opinion. Ultimately, it's a selfish act that I am to undertake, and the Underking's big mistake. He worried about those that ultimately he was better than, and his desire for something for himself, namely dying, came way too late. I think that I will have to research some different people, some different topics. I think there's not much to find here in this story of Zurin Arctus, as frankly, whilst he helped the Septums build their empire and accidentally conquered death, I do not intend to do this for someone else. I do not intend to do anything by mistake. Come back later, and I'll tell you about some other topic of interest to me. Or to you. Mostly me.